Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. In this video also we are going to discuss theory of unlimited supply of labor of Arthur Lewis. As I have mentioned in my previous video where I have discussed the third part of unlimited supply of labor, this is the last part where we cover the unlimited supply of labor concept of Arthur Lewis. And in this, unlike in the previous video where we have discussed about different aspects of unlimited supply of labor, here also we are going to discuss a new concept or new aspect of the same theory. Before starting the video or before going into the video, let me remind all my non-subscriber viewers, please do subscribe to my channel, because I could see that many of you are watching my videos but you are not subscribing. So this is my request. So please consider this request. So that's it. With that, we can start. So here we know that as students of economics, we know about the role of technical progress, especially when it comes to microeconomics and all. We have dealt with the different types of technical progress, the one put forward by different economists: labor saving technical progress, capital saving technical progress, etc., etc. So here in the arena of development economics also, technical progress has a role to play. In different theories we have discussed this. In the case of Harry-Domman model, Solow model and all, the role of technical progress has been specified. In this scenario, can we ask a question to ourselves that does technical progress has any role to play in when it comes to the unlimited theory, unlimited supply theory of labor of Arthur Lewis? So this question is worth to be asked. Here we could see that Professor Lewis, he contends that for the purpose of his analysis, the growth of technical knowledge and the growth of productive capital. So he could consider these two as something similar. That he says that both of these can be taken to work in the same direction. That is to increase the profit and wage employment. Both of these act in the same manner. He argues that this is able to apply technical knowledge, we ought to have some new investment. That is, if we have to go for a new technical knowledge, first of all we should have some investment, and from that investment we can go for new technical knowledge. This is what Professor Lewis has told. And in the new technical knowledge, so suppose, as we have discussed earlier, there can be different types of technical knowledge. It can be labor saving or capital saving, or new labor or capital neutral kind of technical knowledge, or whatever it may be. So if consider the case when we have a capital saving technical knowledge, then it could be regarded as equivalent to an increment in capital. On the other hand, if we have a labor saving technical knowledge, then it can be regarded as equivalent to an increment in the marginal productivity of labor. One important thing which we have to consider here is that whether it is labor saving technical knowledge or capital saving technical knowledge, in both the cases the result would be the same. That is an outward shift in the marginal productivity schedule. It will shift to the right. Now, Professor Lewis, actually in his model, he takes the growth of knowledge and the growth of productive capital as a single phenomenon. And however, we have to understand that the growth of technical knowledge in the substance sector, it is going to be a different kind of a thing. That is, he considered it as it to be different kettle of fish. That is what he, in his words, how it is described. Now, its effect is that there would be an increase in the level of wages. Wage rate would increase in that substance sector, and as such, capital as surplus would be reduced. Wage rate in the when agriculture sector's wage rate is increased, that will definitely hamper the capitalist surplus, and thus the capitalists have a profound and direct interest in holding down the productivity of labor in the substance sector. So with that, let's see how tapering of the expansionary process described by Lewis happens. Now, if there is no hitch in the process of expansion, then what will happen is that everything will go very smoothly. The capitalist sector will continue to expand till it has completely absorbed the surplus labor in the economy, surplus labor in the agriculture sector, right? Now, then comes a stage where capital accumulation has matched the excess supply of labor. After this point, when the demand and supply of labor are equal, then what happens is that the supply of labor ceases to be perfectly elastic. As a result of this, real wages, instead of remaining constant, it would start rising. Also, the share of profit will change, that is, the share of profit in the national income ceases to show any further rise. Here, investment, rather than growing relative to national income, comes to almost a standstill kind of a position. And however, we have to understand that the expansionary process may come to a halt much before the surplus labor has completely been absorbed. Lewis has suggested some ways whereby the expansionary process might be halted before its natural conclusion. He has suggested three ways. The first one is that he says that the expansion of capitalist sector, it could be rapid enough so that the absolute population in the substance sector is reduced without affecting the total product. And as a consequence, what happens is that the average productivity of labor in the substance sector will start rising, and as a result of this, the level of substance earning and the capitalist wage, both of these things will rise, thereby reducing the volume of capital surplus. However, this shall not be if the growth of population happens to be greater than the rate of growth of capitalist. That is the first case, or the first way. There are two other ways too. The second one is that the technical progress can occur in the substance sector and may therefore rise the productivity there. This will in turn be reflected in the rise in the level of substance earnings and the capitalist wage. The result again would be the squeezing of the capitalist surplus. Third way is that the terms of trade, it can turn against the capitalist sector, and this could be due to rise in price of the raw materials and food. This could be very likely to happen, especially when the modern capitalist sector produces no food products, and now the capitalist sector expands, but the demand for food will increase, and the food price must rise in terms of the price of the products in the capitalist sector. In other words, terms of trade would come unfavorable to capital sector. This is a final thing that we have to consider. So whatever the way, there would be some kind of unfavorable situation happening to the capitalist sector. But if the real income of the worker is kept constant, then the capitalist wage must rise, and this will definitely help them, and the effect is that the capital surplus is reduced. Lewis has actually suggested three ways through which capital surplus is reduced before, and which will hamper the kind of development process as a result of unlimited supply of labor, because before the absorption of the entire surplus labor in the agriculture sector, if this kind of a situation happens, then it will be very much difficult to go for an development process. That is what is told by Lewis. So, however, if none of these methods operate, then what will happen? Or if even though any of these operate, it operates so lightly or mildly, then the capital accumulation will continue to take place, and the modern capitalist sector, they will continue expanding their venture till the whole surplus labor is absorbed from the agriculture sector. In any case, the process of expansion, it cannot proceed indefinitely, as the wage in the modern agriculture sector will rise, profit will decline, and as a result, capital accumulation will decline, and ultimately bringing all the growth process to a halt-like situation. So, this is the crux of the Lewis theory of economic development with unlimited supply of labor. I hope you are very much clear about this particular theory, because we have, if you have watched all the four sections of these videos, I have uploaded 4 different sections of this video of this concept or of this theory. in 4 different videos. All the 4 videos are very short, so that you can take your own time to watch those videos. You can take any one video today, the other one tomorrow, and so on, so that you will feel very light to understand this particular concept. So it's a very easy concept. I hope it is clear to you. With this, we end the series of videos where we discuss unlimited supply of labor. I think you all are very much clear regarding this particular topic, and for the time being, bye bye, and thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. And also to my non-subscriber viewers, please do subscribe to my channel. And to my subscribers, please like and share this channel. I will be coming back with a new theory, probably from development economics again. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to cover only development economics. I'll be covering micro, macro, financial economics, public finance, etc. With that, also international economics, and also then Indian economy, etc. will be covered. So please do subscribe to my channel. This is a request to my non-subscriber viewers. With that, okay, bye. Thank you for watching.